Welcome to a new episode of the Cartridge Club, where we discuss our game of the month with members of the Cartridge Club community. Hey, it's RocketSauce here, and joining me on the show we have Fitgnat, Boyce, and Spot. And for the month of July, we're talking about the 3D platformer Super Mario Galaxy. If you've played along, you can always share your own experiences in the forums at cartridgeclub.org, in our community's Discord, or across social media by using the hashtag Cartridge Club. Before I start the show, on behalf of the entire Cartridge Club community, I'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon backers like Joel Boyce, Buried on Mars, Christopher Rohr, Dean Lasagna, and Caleb J. Ross. To our backers and Patreon supporters, thank you. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter for the Cartridge Club, please look in how you can do so at patreon.com/Cartridge Club.
Super Mario Galaxy!
Fitgnat, why don't you start us off with your overall thoughts on Super Mario Galaxy?
I liked it, but it didn't click for me the same way as for most people, it seems like. It might just be the headspace I was in for this month, but it was good. But I don't know, it just didn't click for me in the same way. But I did enjoy the game. I didn't quite feel as in control as I would like playing the game, and a lot of the world just kind of blended together for me. But I did, it's still a Mario game. It's still charming, and everything's really colorful and interesting, and the gameplay is solid, even if the controls were a bit off.
Fair enough. And what platform did you play it on?
Primarily Switch, that's what I finished the game on, but I did play a little bit of the Wii version for comparison a little bit before this.
Joel, what are your overall thoughts on the game?
I think my overall thoughts are pretty similar. I enjoyed it. There are things to love about it, but I didn't fall in love with this game like with some other Mario titles. I played it on the Wii U, which is functionally the same as playing it on the Wii, right? You're using Wii controllers and the nunchucks. I'd actually be really interested to hear later on when we talk about controls, Fitgnat's thoughts on comparing the Wii controls versus the Switch controls, because I was wondering how many of the issues I noticed are fixed or how many of them are just working as intended. But yeah, I would say the controls are a big thing that I sometimes had a challenge with the controls and the camera. But one of the things that I really loved were sometimes the atmosphere, the exploration were great. So I had these moments of joy and these moments of frustration. And we'll expand on that, I'm sure, as we go through.
Sounds good. Top.
Well, you guys do mention some things that we will certainly discuss later on, but I'm a little bit on the opposite end. Mario's my main guy. I never get far. I don't get behind on the Mario series. I still have a Metroid game to play. I still have a couple Zeldas I haven't played yet, but I'm right on top of all the Marios. So from the get-go, from when this game launched, it was absolutely one of my favorites. So I'm going to be the unapologetic fan for this game, the booster for it. I'm going to say a lot of nice things about it, I believe. But there are some things that you guys brought up that I can confirm that I experienced too. But it is one of my favorites. The most damning thing I can say about the game is that it's not as good as the sequel. That's about the only thing I can say negative about it, because I just love it so much. It really just hits me just right.
So what platform did you play this one on?
Well, I played I had a completed game file on the Wii, and I copied that over to the Wii U. So I just picked up and played Luigi's portion of it, which is kind of the you might call it the second quest. So I took that through to the finish. So I played about the last 2/3 or so of Luigi's portion of the game, and then I've still got the Switch version out in front of me, and I'm kind of noodling around playing a little bit of the Switch version. But for this month, I finished the second quest on the Wii U. So
let me ask you all real quick before I give my overall thoughts here. Have you guys played any other 3D Mario games in the series?
All of them.
Most of them, yeah.
I know the Mario 3D World game pretty well, and 3D Land a little bit, but I played the Mario 3D World game with my kid a lot, and he really likes it. But back in the day, I didn't have a Nintendo 64, so I actually had a borrowed Nintendo 64 and a borrowed Mario 64 for a few days or a week, rushed through that game a few years after it came out, and I have like a sense of it, but I don't feel like I know the game really well, and I never played Sunshine, so I don't know the precursors to this game as well as I would like, but I do know kind of where the series went after this.
And I will say a few of my opinions, they didn't really change, but it is colored by the games that came after it. I think it's almost unavoidable for that to happen. So in its moment, it was a much more, revolutionary game, I suppose. But now you can see where, well, they've kind of fixed a few of these things in future titles, Control and a few other things. So.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that question is because I think my overall opinion is affected by other games in the series. My favorite one in the series is Mario 64, and probably followed by Mario Odyssey. I hate Mario Sunshine with a passion, so I know a few people are going to get ruffled about that, but it's the worst in the series. It's not fun at all.
Don't worry, I have a few bad things to say about that later.
Oh, it's terrible, but I think my overall opinion of the game is it's a very good game. It definitely washed some of the stank that Mario Sunshine left in my mouth. I enjoy the game. I played it originally. When I originally played it, I played it on the Wii U. And I played it because I think I never had a Wii at the time when I got the Wii U. So I was looking for building up my Wii collection for the backwards compatibility part of the Wii. So I missed out on Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2. So I saved it for the Wii U when I got it, and I had a really good time playing it. Like I said, I felt it was a great improvement over Sunshine, but I didn't feel it was better than 64. Maybe it's because 64 is so ingrained in my head on how to play it. But there are aspects of the game that I think make it harder for me to push it ahead of something like Odyssey or 64. Mostly the controls, and not saying like they're terrible controls. It's just there's definitely...
It's of its time.
Yeah, it's of its time, and
it's a little awkward.
It could be better. Yeah. I think I wish I had a controller to play with as opposed to the Wiimote and Nunchuck. But other than that, yeah, I enjoyed the game. I think I liked it more the first time playing it. I'll give it an example why I think I like the other games more. I don't think I like the space feel of this world. Granted, it's called Galaxy. By that I mean I hate the... I shouldn't say hate. The hate is the wrong word for this. I don't like the jumping between worlds, like, I don't know, like these little planets. It's not like it's a hard platform to jump. Like most of the time, the gravity will pull you to the nearest planet and you're onto your next thing. Sometimes you fall into a little mini black hole, but I think I hated having to do stuff like going around the planet in a circle to get where I need to go. The 3D part, and it's a 3D platformer, I think overall the space feel for it wasn't my favorite. Was it bad? No, but was it my favorite? No, I guess I didn't care for that part too much. I like the game. I wanted to get the little gripes out of the way because I don't want to make me to sound like Fitgnat here. But
I'm agreeing with you for the most part.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's a very fun game. But there's other games in the series I like better.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the preference to 64 and Odyssey, because Odyssey spoils everyone that has played it for any previous Mario game regardless, just because of how smooth it is. You can have your favorites and everything, and it's not to say the old ones are bad or anything, but it's just so polished, and it's the newest one, so it's just it colors the perspective going backward. But I agree with you with the gravity stuff is what you're mostly talking about in terms of not really clicking. That's the thing that mostly didn't click for me. I never fully felt in control of my jumps or which direction I was going whenever the gravity would kick in. It's okay, I'm pressing forward and going backwards. What the heck's happening? And it's I get the idea, but it's possibly the least control I've felt in a Mario game, which is odd. And it might just be me and I wasn't in the mindset for the game or something, but it just never fully clicked on a core platforming level.
I don't think it's just you. And, to echo what ItsRocketSauce said, I thought that was an interesting idea. I think the mechanics of gravity, and you can go around a small, tiny little planet and just keep going, and then you're back where you started, and then jumping from planet to planet. I don't have an issue with that, but I do think that maybe this is what you're getting at. It felt a little bit small because you have these tiny sections of levels, and they're all kind of disconnected from each other. And I think that the other games feel bigger. I think Mario 64 feels bigger because you feel like there's a whole world and keep on going. And here, no, this is the whole world. It's like 100 square feet. This is the world. And there's another one over there that's 50 square feet. So I think that was a weakness, although I don't have an issue with the gravity mechanic as a whole. I think sometimes it's not very signaled very well what you can expect. And that's a mechanic and level design issue.
Did anyone make it to a game over screen, or were you fed with enough lives that it wasn't an issue?
More than enough lives.
Yeah. Because I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, like, this is a game, and it's not, I mean, it's from long enough ago, and there is definitely a lot of times where you enter a failure state, and you got to retry and retry and retry. And that's not something we see as much anymore because they are a lot more generous with checkpoints and such. And this game's pretty generous, but there's a lot of things where you've just got to power your way through whatever that challenge is. And I was just curious if that was a thing that colored your guys' experience or not, if you ran out of lives or anything like that.
I definitely did run out of lives. Not my first 60 or 70 stars and then fighting Bowser, but then I went to get like to 120. Yeah. Doing some of those purple coins levels. I absolutely spent over an hour getting certain stars. Wow. Probably 5 or 6 of them, where I could have, like, I mean, it's amazing the percentage of my time I spent on just a small number of stars that were really finicky.
Yeah, there were a few that took me maybe 40 minutes, but I was playing Luigi and his control was even worse than Mario's. So if you guys had trouble with Mario's, I do not recommend the Luigi run. To me, it really wasn't worth it. Sometimes they make the Luigi challenges in these Mario games kind of fun and interesting, but this made it tedious. And if you guys already found the main game tedious, I wouldn't recommend trying with Luigi.
I wouldn't say it was tedious, and I definitely didn't get far enough just to how I paced my gameplay this month, which was poorly, but I didn't get far enough to get into the post game up past the 60 to the 120. I can definitely see having more of an issue with lives after that, but I would always grab the ones from Toad, like Peach is somehow sending you lives while kidnapped. All that stuff in these games is always kind of funny. And just around the observatory, there's always a couple lives you can just go fetch if you're low.
Yeah.
You know, I always declined the lives from Peach because I thought, why are they giving me an option to take them or not take them? I thought maybe it would lead to something, and they said, "Oh, we're going to give it to the Toad Brigade," but I think that I was basically just depriving myself of lives.
Oops.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Quick more question again. Recap. Who was playing on what again?
I played Wii U extensively. Yeah.
Wii U. Okay.
Wii U.
Switch.
And Switch. All right. Switch question. The main reason I'll bring it back up. We did a poll for the Cartridge Club here, and saying how are you playing the game this month, and 56.3% said the Nintendo Switch. And my question for you, Fitgnat, is: did you play it with controller or did you play with the nunchucks on the?
With the Joy-Cons. So I did end up switching to Joy-Cons. You mentioned you would have preferred to have a controller, and that was my thought as well. So I started with the Pro controller. Well, I had to charge my Pro controller, so I started in the grip for the Joy-Cons, and then switched to the Pro controller. But it was so awkward, and I don't remember who mentioned this on the Discord, but someone mentioned it.
I think it was me.
Yeah, that sounds correct. But where it was just it never felt right doing the aiming stuff with a controller in your hand, because you were doing all the regular motions, and then you had to twist your controller all around to get the star bits. So that just never really felt correct. So I ended up switching to the Joy-Cons just to see how it felt, and that just ended up feeling more true to the original experience, with the Wiimote and Nunchuck, and that is definitely the case from what little I played of the Wii version going back. But
so real quick, with the controller, how did you do the pointer part? Was it the second analog stick, or did you have to do motion controls with the Pro controller?
Motion. It was gyroscope. So it's all the stuff that you normally do on a regular controller game, but you're also almost juggling the darn thing.
And at any point, do you actually need? Actually, I know the answer to this. You don't actually need to ever fire star bits, right? it's nice to use the pointer
just to open up more areas. There is actually some gates that you can't open without having collected enough star bits by certain points.
But you can collect them manually by walking up to them.
Yeah,
but it's sure a lot quicker to get the pointer.
No, yeah, it is. I'm just saying, like to get through most levels and most challenges, you could just ignore the star bits because in a lot of levels they're just leading to extra lives. It's like ignoring the coins in a regular Mario game.
Yeah, I think you're correct. Other than you won't be able to open up some challenges. I don't know if there's a point that you can't go further into the game without giving up star bits. So I'm not sure about that.
Oh, and of course you can redo levels to get more star bits that way. So it might be more efficient to use the pointer to get those far away star bits or get more star bits that you wouldn't otherwise get.
I feel like the game emphasizes the star bits too much to skip them in that fashion. Even though you technically can, it might be a little bit hard mode for some of the things you would want to eventually do. Like, Top Spot is correct with how it doesn't lock off much. Really, only the Hungry Lumas require you shooting star bits at them. But there's points in the level where you can shoot a flower or a little thing on the ground to pop up a coin if you are low on health, or if you just want all the coins ever for some reason.
Yeah, I don't recall a boss strategy requiring shooting star bits. I did use it a little bit if I was being overwhelmed with enemies and I just needed to stun one or two. There's a few times the what are they called? I want to call them Wizrobes, but that's Zelda. The K-Mex or whatever.
The ones.
Magikoopas, thank you. That's the
attack you with PlayStation symbols for some reason.
That's hilarious. But a few times I was overwhelmed with them, and so I would use the star bits to kind of buy myself a little bit of space. But
hey, Top, when you said Wizrobe, I knew exactly who you were talking about.
Yeah,
because that's what I've always referred to him too.
It wasn't popping in my head. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's the same attack strategy too. They disappear, they reappear, they fire at you.
Pretty much.
I actually was wondering if there was ever a point in firing star bits. I felt like that wasn't really introduced in the game, or except at the very first level. And I was probably at 90 plus stars, and I don't remember the exact level, but there's a level where it's a fairly small planet. It has a little hedge maze, and you have to try and catch a rabbit.
Yeah.
And I just found, I couldn't catch it. I was doing these big long jumps to try and gain some distance because he was going exactly as fast as me. So I wasn't gaining any ground. But when I do a long jump, he just darts off in another direction. I thought, wait, is this the time finally at this point in the game that I have to actually use the pointer to try and accomplish something? And I tried hitting him with the pointer to try and stop him. And I found when I hit him with a star bit, it stopped him for like a tiny fraction of a second. And he was immediately moving again. And then finally I did catch him. And I ended up not using the pointer. And I really just went at it for an hour, and then somehow I did it. I didn't really feel like I learned anything like how to do it, but I wonder if I just didn't get good enough at using the pointer while also controlling Mario while also running, and that was the trick.
I don't think so. I think the strategy is to just try to cut him off, and I think the fact that he only stayed stunned for such a brief period of time is to try to signal that you shouldn't be trying to do this because you're not going to gain enough ground that way.
Yeah, I think I remember the exact level that you're talking about, but I could be wrong. But I remember that it was going just fast enough that you couldn't catch up with him at all. Not easily anyway. So I just ended up cutting him off on one of the parts of the hedge maze, one of the ones that had a curve in it. I just ended up cutting him off in there. It took me a while to figure out that was what I was supposed to do, and I felt a little silly afterward. But
that was one of those hour-long star chases for me.
I'll say one boss fight in particular, the first one, I did use the pointer attack, which was that baby piranha plant. The big one is chasing you around that little mini planet.
I love that boss fight, actually.
So do I.
That one is the only time I can recall using it, because it doesn't really hurt. It just stuns it. If he's getting close, if it's getting close to you, just keep shooting it while you're running away, and it will stun it enough where it falls backwards, which then it loses track of you, and you can run around smacking the tail. That's one time I can recall. I know you used it in a boss fight, so
I didn't. It was a tool that you had, and I didn't overwhelmingly rely on shooting the star bits. I collected as many as I could, but I didn't shoot them very often. But if a situation arose, like you mentioned, if I needed the health, it gave you things to shoot at to try to get you some health back. So
it does seem like a missed opportunity to me, because it's honestly so hard to try and focus on controlling Mario, and then while doing that, also try and use the pointer. But if they had built that into the level design and the boss design, the enemy design, where there were times that you had to do it, it would have been a skill that you would have built it. That would have been a very unique thing, as opposed to, in my case, I really used the pointer when I wasn't moving Mario. I never was really doing both at once.
Yeah, it's like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. I don't think you would have ever really gotten fully adept at it, though. I think probably it was better that they kept it as kind of a sidelined feature.
I think it was actually easier to use on the Switch, because just from a little bit I played on the Wii, you have to basically point it almost directly at the bar to be in the center of the screen and just move around from there. It's been a while since I've played the Wii, so maybe that's not completely accurate and I didn't have it set up correctly, but that was the case for what little I played of that. But on the Switch, you can just hit R to center the pointer, and wherever you're positioned, it's just much easier to use it from that point.
Yeah, I'm playing a little bit on the Switch now, and you and I talked already about Joy-Con really is kind of the way to go, as long as you are okay with those tiny Joy-Cons in your hands.
Yeah.
I've just been playing it the last few days, and I always shy away from using Joy-Con whenever I'm able to shy away from it. It's a little bit like they're so small and my hands are so large. It's like trying to play a video game with chopsticks or something. Like I'm just struggling a little bit, but it is the preferred way to play this game, I think so.
Yeah.
And the only issue I had a little piece of furniture kind of blocking line of sight between my Joy-Con on the Switch, and I would lose motion tracking. That's all I would lose was the motion tracking. So it needs the full bandwidth to keep up with the motion tracking. So I had to actually, we're selling this file cabinet, but I had to move it out of the way because my star was jumping all over the screen.
This is the only game I've ever really used the Joy-Cons in that configuration primarily. I can't really remember another time I used them that much.
I started Odyssey that way. They recommend that for Odyssey, but I still found Odyssey a little better with the Pro Controller. So
yeah, and I felt like when this game got kind of re-released, and Nintendo really put no effort into remastering any of these games, that I felt like when it came to Galaxy, and me played it prior to it, that you probably would need the Joy-Cons for it. I mean, that would have been a big draw for me to see if they completely could remaster it, where the Pro Controller is probably the preferred option. But
well, then that brings up the Shield TV port without any motion controls. None of us have experience playing it, and all I can tell is what I've read about it. But that port, there's no motion controls, and that has to be an adjustment if you already know the game. That has to be tough to adjust to.
One of my big draws against this, and I shouldn't say it's a big draw, it's a nitpick for the controls for this game, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the controls right now here some more, but I did not have the easiest time doing a long jump with this one compared to Odyssey, 64, even Sunshine. I mean, it's there, it's doable, but maybe because my hands are not connected on the same piece of plastic, that they're separated by Joy-Con and nunchuck, I had the hardest time doing it. It's doable, and for a minute there, I didn't think I could do it, and eventually I just pull it off in the game. Where I'm like, maybe it's not in this game. Did I misremember doing a long jump?
Were you doing the high jump backflip instead?
Yeah.
I had it misfire on me. Not a lot, but I experienced that too. So I think it's about the timing of the buttons. But yeah.
Yeah. I had a couple of races where I was trying to do a long jump, and I ended up backflipping. It's that's not ideal.
The prankster comic races.
The cosmic Mario, which exactly is not similar at all to another game in the franchise.
No, not at all. Totally unique.
I am interested in this Shield version because I remember the races where I'm twisting with my the Wiimote and I'm falling off the edge here. Occasionally I could do a sharp turn correctly, but anytime motion controls are coming to effect, even in Odyssey, I'm like, I really wish you wouldn't be here. I really wish I could just. Can I just use the nunchuck here to drive Mario around on this little Stingray here, Manta Ray here, driving around? But
Thank God that was only one level.
yeah.
I'd love to
There's
have
another one
access.
actually.
Yeah, there's another one. Yeah, I'd love to have access to that Shield port, and I thought that the Switch version was going to be a straight bringing over of that Shield port without the motion controls, but that's not what they gave us. And then I thought naively that they would give you the option of playing it without motion controls because they've already done all of the work of converting it. But then they didn't make that an option in there, so who knows? Nintendo.
Well, yeah, there was a rumor that it took 2 months to develop that Mario collection, so you could see why.
Yeah.
Little to no effort to go into that game here. So, anyways,
I do agree that they could have done much more with the 3D All-Stars collection, but I feel like people also discount how much better those games look as opposed to the original console, at least in terms of Galaxy, because when I went from Switch to Wii, and it's like, oh, that's the difference.
Yep.
It wasn't as big of a change. Like, they didn't put it in the Odyssey engine or anything, but it was still an improvement. They could have done much more with the port, but the stuff that they did do was an improvement.
I totally confirm that because when I first booted it up for the Wii U, I was like, oh boy. And I got used to it because I played it for, many days, to finish it up. And when I went back to the Switch, it's like somebody cleaned my glasses, It's like, oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
I'm glad you guys brought that up, or at least about the Wii U version, because I remember all the talk about Wii games getting a bump on the Wii U, and it's not like it's horrendous or anything, but it definitely looks like
it's still standard definition.
Yeah,
it's just over HDMI.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like when I don't know if you guys had a backwards compatible PS3, but
yeah,
when you put like a PS2 game in a backwards compatible PS3, it's fine. It just a PS2 game looks better on a CRT television, and that's the main reason why for this playthrough I was playing on a basic Wii for my version of Galaxy. So because it just looks better in my eyes, it just looks better as opposed to the standard definition on a high def television.
Yeah, there's no real up conversion unless you have like one of those converter boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a consequence of the technology advancing.
And I really did want to play on a CRT for my second playthrough. I just wasn't able to do it. It was much more convenient to go with what I already had hooked up. So my original Wii, the disc drive is broken. So
I was thinking about different solutions for cameras, and this is one solution that has become more standard. If you have a complete free control of the camera, is you have one stick for the camera and one stick for the character. But with this game, you just have the one stick. You have your nunchuck, and that's for controlling Mario. So then the other solutions for cameras are you could have the camera just always be behind the character. And another solution is you can have set camera angles for different portions of a level. So you get into a new place and they change the camera angle, and it's always consistent.
The God of War method.
Pardon me?
The God of War method. Classic series, not the modern one.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, because I didn't play this back at the time. I just played it this month for the first time. I wish I had played it back then and kind of knew what the context was. I know Mirror's Edge came out a year later. And of course, Mario 64 is 10 years old. Like, it seems like it's not that far back, 2007, that they hadn't figured out some of these different solutions. It seems like they did. And they took this weird in-between solution for Galaxy where you don't have direct control of the camera. Well, you have a thing where you can switch at 90 degrees, or you can do a first-person view in certain areas, but they don't let you just, here's a button to kind of go behind Mario, right? It's based on where you are in the level, but it's not always the same, right? It's if you're coming from a different part of the level to the same place, it's a slightly different angle because it's making sort of like these AI decisions about how to adjust the angle as you're moving around. So I found myself redoing certain levels, like trying to do a purple coin chase. And sometimes I would come in slightly different path and the camera angle would be a little bit different than it was my previous attempt.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. And it really presents a lot on the purple coin chases. That was one of the few times where I wish I had camera control because I need to see, where to be heading and making a plan to get the rest of these things.
and weird decisions too, like where you basically you're going straight down a path and you have these side paths. So it should pretty much be straight ahead, but instead it's like 3 degrees off. So I'm trying to go forward, and I find myself I'm just slightly veering off the straight line path, slightly veering off towards the edge. And this game is very heavy with the instant deaths via falling, and then starting the whole level over for a purple coin chase, or any kind of a timed level like that. So it's really brutal, actually, sometimes.
Well, and I'll speak to. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go?
No, I was just going to say that probably played into like the lack of feeling in control completely of the game, of not being able to completely position the camera behind you. That's one of the most defeating sounds in the world when you try and do it. Like left's like, nope. Go right, nope.
So
and even like try to go first person when you're desperate and it just not letting you.
Yeah, that one it bugs me a little bit. Those few occasions where it just decides that the thing you could do elsewhere, you can't do that here, and it's pretty arbitrary. Yeah. But I did read this on the wiki, so these aren't my words. But 2 things convened here as far as the camera control. Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, the developers. They have to implement a 3D camera, and it's kind of, especially in 64, it's kind of a brand new thing. They've got to develop it from the ground up, and it seems they weren't ever 100% satisfied with what they come up with, and it is something else to juggle while you're playing the game, and they wanted to try to come up with a method where you didn't have to deal with the camera. And that was kind of one of the inspirations of Spherical Worlds is, well, if it's all a spherical thing, we can kind of keep a camera set and the player won't have to worry about managing the camera. So that's the first thing that was going on. They were trying to solve for that problem. And then the second thing is when they developed the Wii, they didn't give it enough inputs. There's not enough buttons. There's not enough different things to do. So then they're stuck on a system where they don't have a second analog stick. And where they have put the motion controls towards other things instead of cameras. So I think those 2 things convening is how we ended up with Galaxy. And I'm playing through Skyward Sword, and all I have is the center camera behind Link button. That's all I have. There's no other thing for the camera except for that. So,
they did solve this for Mario 3D World, and interesting, they have an even more minimal control scheme with that.
Yeah. But that was, developed over the course of several games too. It wasn't a leap direct from one to the other. So
each time they figure it out. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I actually can understand the problem with the camera more going back to the Wii version, because you have to like reach up for the D-pad, and that's not as easy to do when you do have just that other stick on the Switch version. Even with you're using the split Joy-Cons, you still have another stick right there, and that's where the camera's attached to. But it just.
I think with the D-pad on the Wiimote to move the camera around, it would have been better if they give you, as opposed to a 90-degree turn, it seems like it was, of the camera. They give you like somewhere in between of it. Like you have to click twice to get a 90-degree. Like if it could have been like you click once to go halfway in between that, like a 45-degree angle. I think that would have been more of a solution. But anytime I try to move the camera around, it definitely did seem like something was blocking the camera. Like you're not at this correct angle because this is blocking the camera from doing so. So you just kind of had to deal with it. But I don't know. That's just from my experience.
And the level 64 was on vacation that day.
And you're right to bring it up. But it's not a thing that affected me overwhelmingly through the game, just at certain points. So that's for me at least.
Yeah, I think what I learned is in terms of approaching this game, almost from a philosophical standpoint, if you just want to enjoy the game and explore and just pick the levels that you want, and I'm not having fun with this, I'm going to leave and go somewhere else. The game provides that freedom, and you can definitely get to Bowser without kind of hitting up against some of these issues. But when you go to some of those really challenging stages where you're trying to get 120 stars, where it demands mastery of the controls and the controls in the camera are not well developed enough to really allow you to consistently develop that skill. There's going to come a point where you're going to butt up against the limits of the technology, and you're going to have to just do it over and over and over again until you kind of get lucky. At least that's how it was for me.
Well, Nintendo kind of in a lot of their games, they add things that are a little bit beyond reason for challenge. And they're almost always optional, but I don't find that out of line with other Nintendo developed games either. At least that's my opinion.
I know what you mean, but I actually I doing like the star levels in like New Super Mario Brothers Wii or New Super Mario Brothers U. Some of those are like ridiculously tricky and precise, but I always felt like it's really, really hard, but I know exactly what I need to do, and I know why I did it wrong, and I feel like it's my fault. And, one particular level, probably my most hated level, I know we're not at that point yet, was doing a purple coin chase in the toy galaxy.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And
it was one of the last stars I got. Yeah.
It's brutal because it doesn't feel like it's just hard and you have to get better at it. I mean, parts of it, yeah, you have to do a long jump across these big gaps. All the spaces between you are disappearing, but those slowly rotating ones. So you land on a step, it doesn't start to disappear like a donut block or get ready to fall like a donut block or something else. It starts to rotate, and immediately that rotation causes you to kind of trip. So you sort of have to do this awkward, constantly hopping. There's never a smooth movement in that level because of the way it's designed. It's like you're tripping over polygon edges. And it just felt like this doesn't feel good. Even when I beat it, it doesn't feel good. It feels bad the whole time.
It was stressful. It was stressful for sure. And that one was one where even this especially happened the first time I played it. I don't think it makes it clear to you that there's more purple coins that you don't need to collect than you do. Like there's like 150 there and you only need 100. But I don't feel like I knew that. So I thought I had to make a path to get them all. And so I was beating my head against the wall, trying to do more than I actually had to do. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, you've actually got to make it back to your start point too. So don't close off when you first leave, because you've got to make a path to get back there too. Yeah, you have to get 100 coins the first time, find out where the star appears, and then realize, oh, I have to take a completely different strategy because I'm about to lose now. Yeah, it'd been cool if they had let you know it was going to happen that way. Yeah, just a little spacer like it would have been very easy to denote visually this is where it's going to appear. Yeah, Mario 64 had that for the coin stars. Or the red coin stars, I mean. Speaking of visual things, one thing I really hated was Mario grabbing onto an edge and pulling up. I found that it was very rarely useful. I think a very natural thing to do is you try and jump for something and you're a little bit short, and then you shake the controller and try and get that little extra twirl. But when you do the little extra twirl, he will not grab the edge. So the twirl is not really useful for getting extra height because it keeps him from grabbing the edge. If you're high enough to reach the edge, then doing the twirl is probably going to prevent you from making it, and you're going to fall back down. Did anyone else have that issue? Or is that just me?
No, I didn't encounter that specifically.
I don't recall it too much. Maybe sometimes.
I don't recall it, but I'll definitely recall on this playthrough when they introduced the jump and then flick your remote to get the spin so you can jump up higher. There was definitely a part like right after that where I think they had the 3 extra lives built onto like the mushroom, the red and yellow mushroom, like it would give you 3 additional hit points. Was it either that or it was like a 1-up, one of the two, where you had to do that to get that high. And I think I did it 3 times and I said to hell with this. And it's just like I said, it was I was able to do it later on, but it was like right after it was introduced, I just was like, could not do it. And I was just like, you know what? The end of this level's right here. I'm ending the level. I'm good. Kind of one of those moments. I'm good. You got me. I tried. I gave it 4 or 5 tries. I was good. So
with that, I just had this last night, or otherwise I wouldn't have even thought about it, because I was trying to do the same thing, but because of some of the camera issues you guys mentioned, I wasn't lined up directly under it like I thought I was. So I was doing the move, but I was just off a little bit enough where I wasn't grabbing the thing, and I didn't catch it the first 3 jumps. And then it's like, oh, I need to be a little bit more this way. Mm-hmm. So that may have been what happening to you too.
I don't think it's come up yet, but I think it's worth mentioning that on the Switch version, it is a godsend to have the spin equipped to X. I think it's X. Either way,
I haven't used it yet. I'm so used to just shaking my arm real fast. I haven't used the button yet.
I'm spoiled by the fact I didn't have to do that the vast majority of the time. But, like, I agree with the positioning problem. Like, still, even with that, like positioning like under a block or something is not always the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially when you got like to a level with the spring power up. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna try it with these blocks because I can't hit anything.
Just ignore them at that point. Yeah.
Hearing about the X being mapped as an option, I think I would have much preferred that as opposed to jump and wag. I think my timing wasn't perfect. Like, I could do it, but I think the combination of those buttons being close to each other would have been a much more enjoyable experience. Hearing about that, but I digress. I haven't played that version, so.
And the Joy-Con just seemed a little bit more precise with its motion controls, a lot better than like a standard Wiimote.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know if anyone else plays this way with the Wiimote, but I kind of do. Is like until like I have to use the pointer, it almost always like rests on my knee, and I'll have probably my thumb like up in the air or something like that, and then I'm like, oh, we got a point because there's some of those star bits over here in the corner.
Oh, I definitely was not pointing at the screen unless I needed to.
Yeah.
I only played it for like 15 minutes, and that's basically how I played.
Yeah. Just most of the time, just relaxing on my legs or my lap here, and then I'm like, oh, shake and jump, which could also be some of my fault for why I was not able to make a perfect jump or something like that.
Yeah, the chair I game in kind of has arms, so when I rest my arms on those, I'm kind of already pointing at the screen a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And since I don't have to have my hands together like in my lap, I can kind of just rest them on the arms of this chair, and it works out pretty well.
I always hated it though, and I'm like, oh, I have to move to the screen here so Mario can get up here to this next galaxy, so I can click and drag him, or like those little star bits in the level where it's like the gravity will pull you. You just got to point towards. You got to jump and point towards it.
Yeah,
what's it called?
Stars, yeah,
pole stars.
Yeah. Those. I'm like, oh, I have to move my hand here.
First world problems.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually experiencing that but it was probably just how I had my setup going and how I had my hand on my leg. It just like I did it in a way that it was still already kind of centered if I needed it.
I kind of wish there was a center button, but what are you gonna do? We already talked about the camera.
There is on the Switch. You just press R and it centers it. No matter which position you have the Joy-Con in, like you can be holding it straight up in the air. You hit R, center of the screen.
Is there a center button for the Wii, and I just didn't know about it?
No, because it uses the sensor bar, and so it's trying to map to the sensor bar wherever that is. So, and the Switch uses Dead Reckoning for its motion control, so you can center it wherever it's comfortable for you to be pointing.
I feel like that would be handy.
Yeah,
it definitely was.
It's a pretty good solution.
Mm-hmm. There could have been like at least one button that they didn't use on the number 1 or number 2 button or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Like the little I was playing on the Wii version, I was like, "What the hell? I have to hold my Wiimote straight at the screen."
Did you guys have a favorite power up in this game? And I'll let you give you guys a second to think here because I'm going to read off what the Cartridge Club community said here. With 46.7%, the Boo Mushroom was voted the favorite of the community. Did you guys have a favorite one?
Honestly, and you guys are going to hate this, most of the power-ups are cool. They're kind of short-lived. The bee is okay, but it's the least utility of any flying power-up up to that point. And they kind of kept it nerfed, and that's okay. But I like the spring.
I did not.
I know you don't. I think it's cool. I think it looks cool. I think it adds just a chaotic element, and I don't feel like they ask you to do too much that has to be so freaking precise. You will make mistakes and you will die from those mistakes, but they're not asking for a surgical precision with it. So I just find it pretty fun.
No, I get the idea, and I like the idea of most of the power-ups, but I'm going to go with the bee suit for my favorite one just because it was the only one that didn't piss me off consistently. I get the idea for the other ones, but it's I would just rather go with the main gameplay when I already don't feel in full control. Getting the spring is just okay, time for this.
Yeah, I like the flying power up with the red star, but it doesn't
that's a good one.
It doesn't come into the game. I thought they would bring it into
Which
some levels, but they didn't. So it's sort of pointless. So with that being said, I kind of go with the boo as well. I felt like I actually was more powerful with the boo. I felt like I could do things that I couldn't do with regular Mario, which is the point of a power up. Some of the other power ups, like the fire flower, because the time limited way they did it, it wasn't really a power up. It wasn't making you feel powerful.
It was just
it
a
was
progress
part
unlock.
of a puzzle. It was part of a key. So it's
so
sort of
weird.
they used the visual language of a fire flower, and it gave you an experience that wasn't like really having a fire flower. It's kind of annoying.
I mean, it was cool. The ice flower too. The ice flower is cool as heck. I wish I could keep it because I like skating across the water and all that stuff. It's pretty neat, but I wouldn't call it a favorite just because it's so limited in use. So.
Actually, talking about them, I feel like the vast majority of power-ups are underused, at least in the main game. Like the initial 60 stars. Like if going past that, you probably get many more of the power-ups. Like I think I used the Boo power-up once.
Yeah, they didn't treat the power-ups in this game like in previous, like the 2D games, because they aren't like permanent necessarily in improvements to what you can do. They're more or less just to pass gates. And in a fun way. I'm not making it a bad thing, but yeah.
Yeah, they're interesting, but they're just not frequent enough.
Yeah.
Like that might be the other reason I'm picking the B as my favorite one, because it's the only one that's used like semi-consistently that's actually fun to use. Mm-hmm. Like no offense to the spring, but like the spring is the other one that comes up more than like 2 or 3 times in the game. And it's like, okay, that one's just a little annoying. But the B is pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember anything else from Mario 64, but Mario 64 had the Metal Mario, right?
And
that was also a time limited one. Oh, the cap,
the wing cap,
the wings, that would make you
Did the cap run out as well?
What's up?
Did the cap run out as well, or was it permanent?
It did, with the music playing, and eventually, it was very much a time you have whatever, because there was like levels in the sky where you can just fly around, try to get the red coins and stuff like that.
So this is sort of following in that tradition with the previous 3D games, making them more like level mechanics rather than power ups in the way they were in the 2D series.
They're almost in line along with the the star power up always where it just runs out of time. You can
the invulnerability.
As a matter of fact, the star power up on Galaxy is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun when it happens.
And you do some massive damage with it. That's a pretty good power up, really.
Yeah, just like running into one of like the bullet bills or whatever they're called. Like just running into them and just destroying it.
And
That's always fun.
Just curving all the way around whatever planetoid you're on and just trying to take everything out in the time that you have. That's pretty fun. And I like the rainbow effect and everything. That worked out pretty well. I like that.
I think I would like a lot more of the power-ups if they came up more often, like the Boo. Like they're interesting ideas. They just don't come up enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of things outside of power-ups. There are things that appear in individual levels, and then they maybe, because of the way you can try to choose whatever level you want, take any path you want. I had experiences where I would see something in the first 10 levels, just in that one level, and then see it again after I was at 90 stars. And I hadn't seen it since then. That I don't remember how this works, Mm-hmm. And it's not obvious how it works from looking at it. So I end up like trying to figure, like there's a thing where you have to get on these pegs and you have to flip on these pegs. And I was thinking, is this like Mario versus Donkey Kong, where he spins around and he jumps? I couldn't figure out the buttons to press where you do like a gymnastic routine on the pegs to try and get up a wall. It only appeared twice, I think, in the whole game.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time remembering it too.
For a second, but
yeah,
I can never figure out the swing for some reason.
There were a few instances like that where there was a mechanic that was just on this one level. The spotlight, actually, that was a good one. The spotlight,
like the spotlight,
and they were explained. There's a Toad there who explains it. Hey, these have their own gravity. But then there are other parts where the gravity would change based on just the way it's on this level is different than it was elsewhere, and it wasn't explained. So I feel like that was a thing sometimes with these mechanics that were, and I think that it goes back to your point. Some things could have been used a lot more, and then you would have learned how they worked. There were too many ideas rather than developing the ideas that they had in some cases.
Heresy. No such thing as too many ideas. No, just kidding. Yeah. No, I think I'm not sure if it's time to bring that up yet, but you mentioned about just it having so many things, but they're all kind of similar and things not being that memorable because of it. And I think that plays into what you just described, actually. If you stay even if you're not staying away from the game, the last time you did this particular thing may have been a long time ago, and they still expect you to have it at top of mind, and that can be a problem.
I feel like this is a good time to mention the funniest like Toad explanation that just came out of nowhere. Like, never mentioned it at all, and it comes back to the camera thing. Like, I got to the last galaxy, or like the last world, like set of levels. What was it? The engine room. You get to the engine room, and I think it's one of the penguin levels or something. You walk up to it, it's like, hey, here's how you control the camera. It's like, I'm at the end of the freaking game. Thanks. Would have been nice to know, and I'd not already figured that out.
I forgot, but actually, that's when I learned how to do the left right.
Yeah.
And I was also like way past 80 or 90 stars at that point. So, this might be handy.
In like the second to last part of the entire game. Thank you, Mr. Toad. Very useful information.
So let's not forget that this game actually has a story.
No way.
Which, yes,
What?
I know, right? Most Mario games kind of what it generally is that Peach gets kidnapped by Bowser, which does happen in this game.
You
But-
don't say.
Yeah, as any good Mario game, Peach gets kidnapped by Bowser here. And the events that every 100 years, the Star Festival happens where a comet passes over the magic Mushroom Kingdom and causes magical stars and stardust to fall to the planet below. But as Mario gets invited to the castle, like it does happen in Mario 64, Peach's castle is lifted off the ground by UFOs driven by Bowser. And he goes chasing after her and ends up getting knocked out. And he ends up waking up on this little mini planet where we're introduced to Rosalina. So this is her first game into the Mario franchise. New character who generally just kind of... Does she do anything else besides be like a narrator on this overworld?
Outside of the storybook sections, I think she just functions like Peach would normally function.
Just give you a motivating factor and a reminder of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Going after
and the
Lumos.
scale of the disruption that you're trying to undo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Quick question about the story at the start of the game. I may have just missed this on my replay of the first level, but why the hell does Peach have a Luma at the start?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. Well, I guess maybe that's something about how the stars are falling down from the heavens. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have to check into that. That's a good question.
Yeah, I figured they probably just showed up, but it was just an odd thing to notice. Like, wait a second, why?
Maybe it's just a toad in a costume. Who knows? Guys, did you guys have overall thoughts on the story? Did you like it as a motivating point to play the game?
Well, I have something to say about that specifically. Now, remember, this is the Mario game that came after Sunshine. And Sunshine has a lot of flaws. I like Sunshine, but I don't love it. I think it's okay, and it's got some neat ideas. But the story never really gets off the ground on Sunshine. It makes the whole experience kind of lukewarm. Bowser isn't even really there until the very end, and it's almost an afterthought. The whole thing's got a vacation vibe, and he kind of you fight him in a hot tub, and whatever.
Yeah,
So-
and he's got a weird voice in that one too. where he's
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Yeah,
true, yeah."
son, thanks,
The voices are always weird in all of these. Like, it's like one word out of an entire sentence, like
Right.
thank you, and then it's like 50 other words in the stream.
Right. So I'm a person, especially on action games or platformers, that I don't really care about the story. It's kind of almost a meme. The Mario game doesn't need a story. And I'm right there. I'm right there for that. A Mario game does not need a story. The story is Mario jumps. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the story. That's the description from the back of the box. That's the review. That's the plot. The plot is Mario jumps. Okay.
This all reminds me of I went to a Vancouver Retro Gaming Expo one time, and Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, was a guest there, and he was doing a Q&A, and someone asked him, like, what's your favorite story in a Mario game? And he just looked confused for things like, I think I like the one where Peach gets kidnapped.
That's pretty good.
That was Mario himself responding there. It was like, that was a great moment.
So anyway, so I don't need, and I still don't ultimately need a story in a lot of my action games. I need the action to be good. Story is like steak sauce, right? It's good to have, but if the steak is good enough, you don't need it. Okay. So I'm not a big guy for story in certain games that aren't story driven games. But this game, Galaxy, made me appreciate even not the plot or whatever, but the devastation that happens at the very beginning. I had never hated Bowser more. Like beating him in Sunshine, who cares? But I was going to get that bastard. Like he messed everything up and he made me care about defeating him. I didn't know that something as simple as that would happen in a Mario game. Yeah, and a lot of it just has to do with it played out in front of us. In every game before that, the things that happened before we got there or happened off camera. But this
or
like happened.
Whimsical.
Yeah. And it's his cruelty or whatever is played more for laughs in other games. And still, even Odyssey, there's not really a threat. But he's portrayed as threatening here in a way that he's really not in other games. And that made me much more motivated. And I had more of, I guess, an emotional response to beating the game and defeating him than in previous Mario games. Well, Mario Sunshine, at least.
Yeah, the scale and the way they present his threat is much more.
And it's played not serious, but it's played much more seriously than other games. And yeah, definitely.
I think it's like New Mario U Deluxe or whichever one, where they're just like having a picnic and he just walks in and it's like, yoink, run away.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that too. But just having it in Galaxy, especially contrasted against Sunshine, was a very different experience. And so it wasn't the game that unlocked my appreciation for story in video games, but it definitely made it different in a way that I wanted to put into words. So,
oh yeah, it's unique for Mario games.
Mm-hmm.
Mainline anyway, like as opposed to the RPGs and such.
Right. Oh yeah. And then what about Rosalina's the picture book stuff? What's your guys' thoughts on that?
It was cute and charming until it got really dark for some reason.
It sure did.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second. Like the one that's like, oh, let's go back to the game after you finish it and like finish out this little cute storybook. And it's like, oh, that's depressing.
Yeah, I'm devastated. I don't want to play anymore. Yeah. It's a very interesting and unique thing to put in any game, much less a mainline Mario game. And her story, what strikes me, it's meant to portray as a kid's story, as a storybook tale, but there's no moral to it. It's just like, is this like an actual recounting of events? Is this an allegory for what her life has been? I don't know. I don't have any idea. There's no moral. There's no outcome to that she made a good choice or a bad choice. It just tells the story. It's so strange.
Yeah, I was a fan of the storybook. I like the way it was presented. It's uniquely Galaxy. It doesn't. It's not part of any other Mario. It's this whole new mythos, and it's cute. It's charming. It does have some darkness to it. It's optional. So this is like many other Mario games, one where you don't have to spend a lot of time on story, and they really, with the new Super Mario series, with the Mario 3D World, it's really just, you just dive right in. There's no talking. It's sound effects, right? There's no text to read in those games. It's all shown visually. This was sort of a step towards that, but the story's there if you want it, but you don't have to take it.
Yeah, it's also just good as a framing device, because that's how the game starts out, and I feel like that's how it ends with. I could be wrong, though. But a lot happened in that ending, so I forget if there's a storybook section.
And it's not 100% clear because it just reboots the universe, kind of. It's kind of, there's not a firm logic to what happens at the end of the game, really.
Yeah, it's like, I was watching that and it's like, I think I know where the mushrooms that are usually in the levels went.
So Tav, since you've played Galaxy 2,
yeah,
my thought is, and without spoiling the story, I guess, of that one, does that continue the story? Because from one I thought I've heard before, that they made, when they were making Galaxy, they just made a ton of levels, and they decided, we got a second game here, that it was essentially just more levels for Galaxy. Right. Is there a story for that? Is it a continuation?
Okay, so this goes to exactly what has been brought up before. Galaxy throws a lot on the wall to see what sticks, and they're all, space themed and such, but it's hard to remember a lot of individual touch points because it all has some similarities and whatever. And I have the same struggle with Galaxy 2. When I picked up Galaxy 1, I thought I was doing Luigi's Run to go find green stars, which is the after the second quest of Galaxy 2. I didn't realize until several stars in, oh no, you're just playing the exact same game again, but with Luigi. And he jumps a little bit higher, and his control is extremely slippery. It's hard to come to a stop where you want him to come to a stop to. So between the two games, I don't have a lot to speak of at this point because I've only played Galaxy 2 through to completion once. And it was also far enough ago that I don't have a lot of recollections about it other than like Yoshi's in it and a few things like that. And it's an overworld map instead of the hub based like this one is. So there are some things that are a bit different, but one thing as far as the way the levels are structured in Galaxy that I like, it is a departure from 64 and from Sunshine, which is a bit more exploration based. And this is a bit more point A to point B based for the most part. There are exceptions. There are big worlds like the Honey Hive Galaxy. That's kind of one big place that you kind of explore different facets of. And there's worlds like that throughout Galaxy. And I thought maybe those were holdovers from an earlier design of Galaxy before they settled on doing lots of individual planetoids that you go through one by one. And then as I played it this time, I thought, well, maybe it's more of a way to ease players in that had played previous games because this is a lot more out there than Sunshine or 64 is as far as having all the gravity mechanics and things like that. So I thought, well, maybe they have these worlds as the kind of a grounding feature for players that might start to get overwhelmed by some of the other things. And I thought both those things, but I did just read on again, this is the Mario wiki, that was kind of a intentional choice by the developers. And I didn't know this before today. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase this, that Nintendo views Galaxy as structured more like Super Mario 3D Land and Mario World, as far as it being the point being course clearing, okay, instead of a sandbox. And I didn't realize that they had determined that that's where they put it. So Galaxy is kind of the first step towards the 3D Land and the 3D World style of games, where it's not quite fully exploration like Odyssey and actually I like them all. I like all those games. But I really saw that more on this playthrough. And that's kind of what I appreciate about this one. And especially Galaxy 2. I like the challenge of getting from point A to point B. I'm not as interested in the challenge of exploring all throughout to try to figure out what to do next. That has a place. And in a game like Odyssey, that's the whole point. And I enjoyed it too. But I really like trying to get from this side of the whatever the level to the other side. And that's what the challenge is. So that's something I appreciate about both the Galaxy games. That's one of the reasons they are way up on my favorites list.
Yeah, it's interesting to just have that in the discussion for the context of going to the 3D Land and 3D World games, because it's building that center point between the open 3D games and the original 2D games. And
I hadn't touched that to include the Galaxy games, but this playthrough, I can see the seeds of that. Because so many of the levels are only interested in you progressing towards the ending by going place to place to place. And there's only a few that are more like open world style. And those are actually my least favorite. Like I mentioned, the Honey Hive Galaxy. That was never one of my favorites. I want to do weird, crazy stuff in all different gravities and go upside down and go around things. And I want to do all that stuff. And that's what most of the rest of the game allows me to do. So those are my favorite points. The weird circular gravity and running around the inside of a cylinder to try to get to the end. Just all kinds of craziness. That's what I like.
Yeah, like more Battle Rock Galaxy than
absolutely. I love it. Honey Hive, yeah. No, I love Battle Rock. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was just playing that last night.
But isn't this sort of the Mario 64 template, right? You go to a level and you go back to the same level again and again, but every time the level ends when you get a star. So when you go back to the same level, you just have a different goal, but it's the same level.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is the same in that fashion. And the way it's handled here is a lot more branch points. So you'll start off in the same place, but then you'll branch off different places to get the extra stars. But whereas Morback 64 and Sunshine, for the most part, you have access to a lot of stars on when you get into them. It just depends on where you have found them or where you go. There's not too many stars. There are some, but there's not too many stars that only lock you into getting that one star when you're in there.
I think I know what
they're
you
a
mean.
lot more exploration based, the earlier games, and this one is a little more focused on just progressing instead of exploring, I think.
Although I have to say, when I did come across a hidden star and it wasn't what I was supposed to do, or it sort of is, but it sort of wasn't. Those were some of my most enjoyed moments.
And they're optional because some of them have a challenge that is, they don't want to get you stuck behind. The one that stands out to me is where you have to blow up the trash. And I had a tremendous, you had to throw the bombs to blow up the trash. It's a bonus star, and you're under a time limit. The first time I played through way back in the day, I had such a problem doing it, and I dreaded it when I hit it the next time, but I did it after 10 tries. And then last night I got to it again because I am playing Mario again on the Switch, and I got it after 3 tries. So it's like, I don't know, the first time it was one of those like you had, Joel, where I had to go for 40 minutes or 50 minutes just to get it to work out for me and get lucky. But I don't know if I got better at it or if I just got luckier at it, but it wasn't so bad the next few times I hit it. So I think that's why some of those optional stars have challenges that they didn't want to make part of the main path.
So did you guys?
Every star is optional, almost, right?
Yeah, I guess you can top out at 60 or 70 to get to the boss.
You just need 60 to get to the boss. I actually thought I had 61, and then I beat Bowser. He was my 62nd star.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so I had 12 stars left to get to the final level yesterday, and I just went 3-4 hours in a rush to get all the rest of them.
Go ham on it.
Yep.
So did you guys have a favorite level that stands out to you the most in this game, or least favorite a level that stands out to you that you're like, I'm glad I don't have to ever play that again?
For me, I think most levels just kind of ended up blending together. I liked a lot of them, but I couldn't really name most of them for you. The least favorite was probably the Toy Galaxy. That might be a combination of I was at the end of the game, but also just I found that to be just a little annoying.
That's when the challenge really started to ramp up too, and yeah, it's a lot more. It demands a lot more from you than most of the other ones did.
Yeah, but it just felt like a little kind of topsy turvy. Like it was hard to figure out where to go, which direction you're supposed to be facing, and all that. That was the most unclear of the gravity elements that I could.
Yeah, it was really, the gravity rules were not clearly communicated there. They did not make sense. Really annoying. I agree. I liked Deep Dark Galaxy. That's the one where it's like the Toad Brigade is there. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned, but I think this was the introduction of Captain Toad to the Mario series.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I forgot about that until playing it through again.
Yeah, he's not as important as Mario 3D World, where they had the spin-off game, the Adventures of Captain Toad, and they had individual levels in that game. But he's in it for sure. I like the Deep Dark Galaxy. It's like a little beach galaxy, but it's at night. And I just like the look of it. And this is also a place where I found a hidden star at the bottom. And I liked how all the parts of this galaxy were connected together. So there was actually a ghost ship. There's this, you go inside of a cave on the beach, and then you go to the bottom of the water, and there are other things you can find there. It's all connected. It's not jumping from a small planetoid to another planetoid. It's a big interconnected level.
Bigger ones, yeah.
And I liked it. I liked the look of it. I liked the feel of it. It wasn't super stressful. There was some cool exploration to it.
You may very well like Mario 64 more, if you like that kind of stage, because that's a lot more what that game would give to you. Sunshine 2 to a degree.
I got that 3D collection, and I haven't cracked it open yet, but I cannot wait to play Mario 64.
Yeah, go into it understanding the time that it was made, but you may like it if you like that level.
It holds up really well. It's still got its elements that are a little wonky, but it holds up way better than you would probably think. Go ahead.
Okay, earlier we were talking about throwing ideas to the wall, and it's not one of my favorite levels, but I will bring it up. What is it called? The Matter Splatter Galaxy. Just as far as this game throwing ideas out, there are Mario games. A lot of Mario games do it. They use an idea once, and these ideas are things that other indie games will build the entire game on. And Matter Splatter is one of them. I'm playing it. I don't remember the name of it, but I've got a little 2D indie game where the only things that exist, if light hits it, it exists. If it's dark, it doesn't exist. And it's a platform you've got to figure out how to get through.
The spotlight levels.
It's sort of like that, yeah. but Matter Splatter, it has like random, the spotlight, exactly right. And so where the spotlight is, the matter
That's where
exists.
the platform is.
Yeah, and
I like those.
They do the ideas, but they use it like basically once and then they toss it. It's like, and that idea is like an indie studio will make an entire game off of that, but Mario will use it one time and then throw it out, off to a new idea. And that's one of the things in a Nintendo or a Mario game. You'll get a lot of ideas, and maybe you end up not liking every one of them, but they're going to throw a lot to you and try a lot of different things.
I give that level credit because that's a mechanic, as you say, that is introduced and isn't really used a lot again after that, but it's very visually clear right off the hop how it works.
Yes,
so that's
I agree.
why it's okay to do that. And when they introduce a mechanic and maybe they could have used it again, but it's a clear mechanic, it's a winner.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not visually clear and then it's not. So that's the mixed bag sometimes with some of the levels, but that's a good one.
Yeah, with the indie game mentioned, I feel like it's worth mentioning like the V, whatever, how you pronounce that.
Exactly.
Like, I had to look that up to see if it came out after or before. But like the gravity flipping with the arrows, it's really hard to separate that out now going back.
Yeah, it definitely reminds of lots of different things that an indie game may have used to build the whole game on. And they're like, that we made a stage about that, and then we moved on to something else.
I will mention like a favorite section of levels, since I only mentioned a least favorite directly. It's not so much a favorite level, but a favorite section of levels. I really like all the final Bowser levels, like all the
I'm with you.
Final worlds of stages.
Mm-hmm.
They just felt like really good challenge, but not annoying, except for like maybe little bits with like the bullet bills on the last one.
They're a little too extreme.
Little much.
Yeah.
A little much.
They don't give you a lot of wiggle room.
No, they don't. But those levels as a whole, I just really like those. And especially the one where, I think it was the first or second one where it has like the Mario 64 boss music for it. Or remix of that. That was really fun.
It's a trope for me when I hosted shows. Is one of my favorite levels are always like spooky haunted level. Of course, there's one for this one, which is Ghostly Galaxy. Which also has one of my favorite boss fights in the game with Bouldergeist, which I thought was a clever name.
Yeah, and that's a good boss too. That's a good boss.
I like those levels and that boss; those are good.
I don't know of a bad boss in the game, honestly. I don't know that I absolutely love them all, but most of the bosses in this game are pretty darn good.
Speaking of bosses, did you guys have any favorite bosses?
Well, the Bowser fight's pretty awesome. It wasn't as I don't know. It was very, very memorable, and I remember my first time through. I just loved it so much because the way they set it up, you've got to cut them off, and the way you're not really platforming in that moment. You're just maneuvering and trying to outmaneuver him and stuff. And I really liked it. It's not one of the more epic Bowser bosses they've ever had as far as scale or whatever or scope, but it works pretty well. I really like the Bowser boss and the is it PD Piranha, the very, very, very first one? Is it PD?
It seems like it might be, but
Dino,
Piranha.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty simple and gets you your bearings on what kinds of things you'll be doing for the whole game, and it just works out really well. The way they present the information to you on that is pretty good. We didn't mention it, but this is the team that came off of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat to make this game, and
Really?
Donkey Kong Jungle Beat is a game that if you haven't played it, you should make an effort to play it if you're into platformers. I've played it. I've got the GameCube version that plays with the bongos, but they did update that to regular controller controls for the Wii. And I speak very, very highly of that game too. As far as a pure platformer, a skill-based platformer, that's a very, very interesting game. And that these guys were given the reins to do this Mario game. I think they knocked it out of the park, in my opinion.
Yeah,
makes kind of sense.
Yeah, another of the good bosses is the octopus guy that you fight a couple of times where you have to go around him and knock the, whatever coconut things he throws at you.
Yeah,
knock those back. Those are fun.
Did anyone play Astro Bot Rescue Mission on PlayStation VR?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very Mario derivative. It's a very good game all on its own. But a couple of the bosses remind me of Super Mario Galaxy bosses. There's a giant spider. There's a giant octopus. It's very interesting how they hit upon some of the same things.
You know what boss I had a hard time with too, and it took me way longer than it probably ever should have, was Mega Leg. That Bowser
big
Jr.
robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy.
God, I forgot about that.
I like that one actually.
I had the hardest time in the world, and I knew what I had to do. Well, actually, I didn't know what I had to do. For the longest time, I thought maybe I'd knock out his eyeballs for a second, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's this thing flashing on top of his head here. But yeah, I just kept getting owned by the bullets because like the fence that you have to take down a fence, right, with the bullet, and then have the next bullet go through to break the star.
Mm-hmm.
I must have wasted. We talked about earlier here too, like the game gives you enough lives. And I believe even on this one of the legs has a 1-up on it. I couldn't tell you which exact one does, but I thought one of them maybe does. But I didn't get an over, but I definitely felt like I wasted almost all my lives that I accumulated on this boss. And
it feels like a lot of these things like this are situational, because like I just went through that so quick. I don't think I had any problems with it. But then I got hung up on places probably you all didn't. So
I don't think I had a problem with Mega Leg. I just didn't really remember him that much.
No, I did. I clear as day because I'm like, what am I not doing here? It's definitely one of those where it's like I wasn't like dodging 100 bullets or anything like that. It was definitely like, how can I not get this part right here where maybe I get only one fence and then I get hit on the like second bullet, would like if I was trying to jump, then where Mario would climb on top of it, I try to make the jump or something over. My platforming time was just not on point for that boss.
Maybe it was an adjustment time thing because it was an early boss fight.
Sure, maybe that's what it was. But for some reason, that one just gave me more trouble than I like to admit.
I liked Fiery Dino Piranha.
Me
and
too.
it's partly because I liked the original Dino Piranha fight. That was a great first fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming back to that and like ramping the difficulty up, it was challenging, but the mechanics were pretty smooth for me. And so I felt like it wasn't easy. I had to give it a few tries, but it wasn't one of these. It wasn't one that was sort of damaged by bad mechanics like that one where you have to beat the mole with it when you're in the spring mode. It was like I felt like I can do this. I just need to get a little bit better and a little bit faster. Had fun with it.
Yeah, that skeletal fish boss. That wasn't too bad, but the underwater levels in general in this game are not great. Mostly because I think the camera plays in a lot to why the underwater levels are frustrating.
That's another place where you wish you had full camera control because you're in a 3D space in which you can go in every direction, so you want to be able to see what you're doing. Yeah, it's even more hard to position yourself than on like the more gravity-based little orbs. Yeah.
So we briefly touched on it earlier, and the first introduction of Luigi in this game actually is that horror level I mentioned, but you can actually play as Luigi. So, Todd, you mentioned earlier, how do you unlock Luigi to be playable in this game?
Well, if you go through as Mario the first time through and you get all 120 stars, then your save file will let you switch between Mario and Luigi. And so you just switch over to Luigi and you just start the whole game again. We've mentioned like Nintendo kind of has we've had a lot of great things to say about them, and especially this game, but every now and then you can pick on them for doing something lazy, and this Luigi mode is kind of lazy in that fashion. It's the exact same game again. Very little has changed. There's a few things that have changed. I guess some of the pranks are.
Can I ask, did they at least swap them in the like cutscenes?
No, that's my point. No, when you rescue Luigi, you rescue Luigi with Luigi, and they put some text up to kind of hand wave it off. It's like, I don't know why that choice was made. Like, it wouldn't have taken that much development time to have done something with that. But some of the chase levels, what's that prankster race Luigi, or what's he called? Cosmic, yeah. So I guess the Cosmic Luigi is a little faster or whatever because Luigi's base physics are a little faster. So but it's primarily the same game. And I did mention earlier in the show, Luigi can jump a little higher and maybe a little longer, and that's welcome. But he just slips and slides when he walks. When you stop pressing forward, he slips several portions past where you mean to go. So you constantly have to rock the stick back and forth just to counter his momentum. And it made it
like drifting without a vehicle.
Yeah, very, very close to that. And it made it challenging, but not really in a fun way or in a way that I got used to. My save that I picked up was probably about a fourth to a third completed. So I didn't do the entire game front to back. I just did the last 2/3 or 3/4. I'm not really sure. But even in that, and I kind of almost speed ran the whole thing. I was going through just because I'd already played the game before. I wasn't like experiencing it again for the first time. I didn't even do the storybook until like the very end, and I accidentally walked into that room and I got locked into the storybook until we made it through every chapter because I hadn't done any of the chapters yet. But I forget where I was going with that. But by the end of the game, I still hadn't fully acclimated to Luigi's control. It was just a hindrance the whole time. It wasn't anything that added a fun challenge. It was just added tediousness to it. So I don't recommend the Luigi run. In Galaxy 2, you are doing, I believe, you're kind of doing different goals and stuff, trying to suss out where these green stars are. I think that's how Galaxy 2 works. So I might pick that up at some point. But I don't really recommend Luigi for Galaxy 1. Just play the Mario run. And you can just beat it or you can complete it. It's up to you. I think it's worth completing, but definitely worth beating. It is a good Mario game in my eyes.
Yeah. Isn't that another similarity? It has like the 3D Land, 3D World where you just end up playing the game again as Luigi.
Yeah, and I this may be where that started. I don't recall that happening in Sunshine. Well, you know what? I never got every star in Sunshine. Because of the blue coins, I never bothered. So I've never completed Sunshine. I don't know what that has, if there's any post-game content for Sunshine. But that seems to be where that started, is in Galaxy. And mostly I don't go through those, but I wanted to. Well, honestly, thanks to the club, I had a reason to revisit one of my favorite games again. So I just used that opportunity to play through to 100% it.
Am I the only one that was playing this for the first time all the way through?
No, this is my first time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but I just felt like acknowledging that this is... I did play it a little bit. Like, I got the Wii way later, and that was one of the games I picked up, but I never got very far in. I think I got to, like, the ball rolling level, and I know it was optional, but it's like, nah, that'll be it for me for now, thanks. But this was the time I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and finish the entire thing. And I did end up going all the way through and enjoying it.
I had a sealed copy of this for like 10 years, and this was the month I opened it up for the Cartridge.
Oh, wow.
Club, so.
Nice. My copy is like the Nintendo Select version. It was way later.
So yeah, this is my second time playing the game through. And it was one of those games where I had for a while, and eventually when I had the opportunity, when I got a Wii U, I popped it in and played it, had a great time, liked it a lot. And I've been meaning to play the sequel for quite some time. And I might just pop it in now because I got a little bit of vacation coming up right here just to see the difference. I've heard multiple things where people either like Galaxy or Galaxy 2 better, but I've heard multiple reports from people saying Galaxy 2 is actually the better game. So
I believe so.
Yeah, and hearing you say it, Top, I imagine that's a good recommendation if you like Galaxy. I mean, I'll just go on and repeat myself earlier. I was a big fan of 64 and Odyssey. So if you're a fan of those games, there's more of it kind of here in this game. So like those would be my recommendations. Do you guys have any other recommendations for a 3D platformer that if you've played this game and you like this, play this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go Galaxy 2 real quick. And just as far as it's more of the same platforming challenges, a lot more new ideas, some different power-ups. And it's streamlined because you are going through a world map and your hub is quite different. So there's less discovery of story and discovery. But if you just want to pick it up and crank through levels, and that's what it provides. And it's very, very good. I like it a lot. Beyond that, it's a little more divisive and maybe it's not quite as good. But like I said, I like gravity mechanics and weird things like this. And like the Sonic Lost Worlds, there's a 3DS and a Wii U version. It presents worlds that are on curved surfaces, and it does a lot of ideas. And especially when it came out, a lot of people really hipped it to, well, this is Sonic trying to do Galaxy. And I can't recommend it fully because although I have it, I haven't really played it other than the demo. but it seems to provide some similar things with some of Sonic's jank, so that's just kind of part and parcel. But if you like this, that might be something to look towards.
I'll stay with the safe recommendation of it's Mario. Play other Mario games that you haven't tried yet. Just go experience the history of this series if there's any missing pieces. Because it's always worth it just to even see, like even Sunshine, just play it just to see how it feels. You might not end up liking it, but it's a piece of the history of the series. Like, you don't have to go like to the Mario's Hotel or anything. You don't have to go that far. Like, play through the main series, see what was done in the previous ones and what was implemented on later, and it's just fun to do that. But there's a lot of good 3D platformers. I can't really think of any specifically off the top of my head, but like, since this is a Nintendo franchise and a lot of like, this is not to be antagonistic or anything, but there's a lot of like console loyalty in the retro space and everything, where people that play the Nintendo franchises sometimes will just ignore franchises from other companies. So check out like Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter or some of the PlayStation ones. Or I'm sure there's some on Xbox that are worth checking out. I don't know how good Blinks the Time Sleeper is, but like, that's not that big of that. I just legitimately
that's
don't
coming
know.
to Game Pass.
Yeah, and if you stuck to like the Nintendo franchises, go check out some of the Rare titles. Just explore the genre in a broad sense.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I certainly plan to use a 3D All-Stars game to really get to know 64, and then check out Sunshine for sure. I'm definitely not going to skip Sunshine. I'll see if the love is deserved, and if the hate is deserved, and maybe it's both. I think I'm really interested in. I've been interested in reading about and thinking back on and exploring the 3D Mario pedigree, because I feel like this is a very direct follow-up to Sunshine, although I haven't played it, and Mario 64. I think that Mario 3D World is a little bit of a departure. I think it takes a lot from the 2D games. It doesn't have a separate health bar, and then items persist. They're connected to health. It does a lot of things that are in the new Super Mario series, and it brings them to the 3D world. So if you didn't like Mario Galaxy, or if you like some things but some things bother you, you might find that Mario 3D World kind of fixes some of those mechanical issues and some of the design issues. But I basically agree. It's hard to go wrong with Mario. It's worth kind of checking everything out, even if you don't love everything.
One thing that you bring up, Sunshine, and I love to keep poo-pooing on it, but what's called Sunshine has like some levels in it that are almost like inspiration for Galaxy. The floodless levels.
Right. I was going to mention that earlier too. Yeah.
Yeah, where it definitely seems like
it's like abstracted out, but it's a lot more like what you'll find in Galaxy.
Yeah, it definitely seems like when they were making those, they're like, hey, we kind of have an idea here, and that could have branched off. So, I mean, if you like that, there are elements of like Galaxy in Sunshine. I just can't recommend that game.
and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's one thing about Sunshine is it's all themed on this resort, so it's all different places of a resort. But being that everything has to theme to a resort, there is variety, but it's all kind of samey too. So I thought Galaxy, it has a lot more ideas and does a lot more things. But as we've already mentioned they throw so much at you, and none of it really sticks anyway. So I don't know if that's a plus or a minus, but at least they had the freedom to not have to theme it all the same way in Galaxy.
All right, final thoughts. Fitgnat, what are your final thoughts on this game? I know you kind of shared at the beginning, but what are your overall final thoughts of Mario Galaxy?
Yeah, I don't know what the over-under on my negative to positive has been on the talking points so far, but it is a classic game, and I don't want to call it gimmicks, but like the mechanics can be a little hit or miss in it, but it's definitely worth revisiting. Like if you have, I would say the Switch version is probably the better way to experience it now, but it's definitely worth going back to, and there's a lot of fun elements to be had in it.
Good to hear. Joel, what are your final thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think likewise, there were parts that frustrated me, and there were parts that I really enjoyed. Overall, I think this is definitely a game that is worth playing. In terms of completing, I guess there are two levels of completion. There's completing it with 120 stars. And then if you do that, then you can unlock Luigi and then get the same 120 stars again. and then you can unlock the 241st star. And I found that after 120 stars, I was done. And I think I might actually advise, if you're not a completionist, maybe don't go for 120 stars. Just have fun with it, because this is a lot of fun. And when you get to a level that's, oh, this is frustrating, or the controls are too janky, you have the freedom in this game to just go on to another level. There are lots of ways of getting 60 stars without banging your head against the wall. So if you're not a completionist, and some of us just can't help it, I understand. It's definitely worth playing it. I don't think that I would recommend completing it unless you just you're having so much fun that you just want to keep on going. So that's where I'm at. Definitely a worthwhile playthrough. Lots of great things, and things that were improved as well with later games. So this paved the way for that.
Top, what are your final overall thoughts on this game?
Well, I knew when I picked it back up to play through again, it was already one of my favorite Mario games, one of my favorite platformers that has ever been made. The sequel is better, but was still one of my favorites. And going back into it with kind of fresh eyes and with another, however many years of new game innovations, it does help me to see some of the ways that some of the things that have been advanced upon in current game design, but it still was a great time. I still had a lot of fun with it, and even Luigi's terrible control wasn't enough to ruin my experience. I just don't recommend doing that if you don't have to. So it's still very, very much up at near the top of my list.
Cool. For my overall thoughts on the game, it's a great game, fun play. I recommend playing it. I couldn't imagine playing it on the Switch without a regular controller, but I look forward to playing the sequels. And I like to reiterate, August's game of the month will be Mirror's Edge. If you're playing along or just want to discuss the game with us, make sure to let us know by using the hashtag Cartridge Club on whatever social media platform you frequent. For those of you not aware, September will be the start of the 9th season for the Cartridge Club, and in that month we'll be playing Horizon Zero Dawn. October we'll be playing Diablo 2. In November we'll be playing Spyro the Dragon. And for December, which will be the 100th episode of the Cartridge Club, we'll be playing Final Fantasy VII. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, please reach out to us. We're always looking forward to having new community members on to talk about the games they love. But anyways, that's the show, everybody. I'd like to thank our guests for being here. Fitgnat, where can we find you online?
I'm not really active on Twitter right now, but I am on Twitter at Fitgnat, Fitgnat. If you want to go there, I need to revamp the page and just start tweeting again. I'm not right now, but either way, I am always hanging out on the Cartridge Club Discord. That's the main place you can find me right now.
Thanks for being here.
No problem. Get to be on for a third Mario game.
That's right. You have a track record here with Mario games for the Cartridge Club.
I missed a few, but the pattern's back.
Joel, where can we find you online?
I'm not a YouTube creator or a podcaster or anything, so I don't really have anything to plug, but I am on Twitter, JJS Boyce. So you'll see me kind of doing just beat it tweets and checking on the Cartridge Club games. And I'm in the forums, the Discord, as QX. So, you can say hi. Thanks
for helping us out here. And Top, where can we find you online?
Yeah, and I want to thank you guys all again for including me here. It's very exciting to find out the club was doing this game, and I wanted to try to do what I could do to just be involved in what way I could. So I appreciate it. I do have a YouTube channel. If you want to call me a YouTube creator, that's where I have the biggest following. But I'm on Twitter as well with a very, very small following there. So anybody wants to hit me up, come on over. But if you search for Top Spot 123 on any search engine, you'll find any of the stuff I've made. So that's where you'll locate me.
Thanks for helping us out here.
Absolutely.
And for myself, you can find me on Twitter at ItsRocketSauce. I'm also on the Cartridge Club Discord, same handle, and I do have an Instagram where I post fun stuff that I do. Sometimes that's not even video game related. But anyways, you can find me at those locations. But with that being said, that's the show, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. CC Unite.
They also probably did it at the beginning of the game, but I just forget. Also, I have to mention this because I think it's funny, but me and Joel are both drinking bubbly sparkling water.
Nice.
This is such a random thing. But
What's your flavor? I have
it's
lime.
blackberry.
Blackberry's good too.
Yeah, what do you have?
I have lime. I like the pineapple one too. Have you tried that?
I have not. I do not like most of the flavors. This is just a side tangent, but I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, Rocket Sauce, feel free to cut this out.
It probably is get cut out of the show because I don't know how I can fit this in. Basically.
Maybe we can get sponsored.